Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. It wasn't that long ago that an 85-inch TV felt massive, like you were going full home theater mode. But now, we've got 98-inch displays becoming common and even 115-inch models hitting the market. The thing is, just because a TV is huge doesn't always mean the picture quality automatically keeps up with it. And that's where OLED, and more specifically QD-OLED, still has the edge. So today, we're taking a look at Samsung's latest QD-OLED, the S95F, to see how it stacks up. Let's start with what's powering it. The S95F uses Samsung's new NQ4 AI Gen 3 processor. This is the same chip that they're using in the flagship 8K TV this year. You're looking at 128 neural networks dedicated to real-time processing, things like sharpening, reducing compression noise, and improving edge clarity. The panel is Samsung's latest Gen QD-OLED, which still uses RGB subpixels, rather than WRGB like LG. So no white subpixel means better color volume at higher brightness. And yes, the brightness is improved over last year. In filmmaker mode, with HDR, I measured 2089 nits on a 10% window. Full screen white just hit under 400 nits, which is really bright for an OLED. Now as always, there's no Dolby Vision support here. Samsung's still sticking with HDR10, HDR10 Plus, and HLG. If you've lived with a Samsung TV before, you already know this, but for new buyers, it's something to keep in mind. Watching John Wick 4, especially in the Osaka Continental scenes, those bright highlights have more pop this year than last, and the transitions from dark to light look more refined. Contrast is about what you'd expect from an OLED, meaning pixel level dimming gives you deep blacks and punchy highlights. Filmmaker mode is very accurate out of the box, with delta E values well under 2 on grayscale and color accuracy. But if you're watching in a brighter room, standard mode actually held on to shadow detail a bit better. There's a bit of raised black levels coming from the anti-reflective coating, but it's minor and arguably worth the trade if you deal with ambient light. Color reproduction on the S95F is excellent. Watching something colorful like Moana 2, the ocean blues really stood out, showing off the panel's richness. The TV covers 100% of the DCI P3 color space and reached 90.2% of Rec 2020. Upscaling continues to be one of Samsung's stronger points this year. Watching a standard Blu-ray of Oblivion, I noticed some subtle improvements in skin texture, the stitching on the clothing, and background detail compared to last year's Gen 2 chip. It's still not perfect. Some of the heavily compressed content from YouTube TV still had some minor artifacting, but on higher quality sources, it's quite good. Motion is handled very well. I left judder and blur settings at 3 out of 10 to keep the soap opera effect under control. Fast camera pans looked smooth, and I didn't see any weird flickering or artifacting. Now onto the elephant in the room, the anti-glare screen. It's been a pretty interesting topic over the last year to see everyone's thoughts, and this year it has been upgraded to what Samsung calls the second gen matte finish. I tested it with a softbox directly on the screen, and while it still lifts black slightly, it's so much better than last year. You also don't see reflections in daytime viewing, which in my living room makes a huge difference. Yes, it can slightly raise black levels a bit, but for me, that's a fair trade compared to watching a scene with a full reflection staring back at me. Color and brightness hold up well off angle. Even at around 45 to 50 degrees, the image looks pretty consistent. No major dirty screen effect or DSE on my unit either. Uniformity was clean even on 5% gray slides. For gaming, not a lot has changed outside of the new motion accelerator 165Hz. If you're using a high-end gaming PC with DisplayPort to HDMI 2.1, this lets you game at 4K 165Hz. Realistically, most people are probably going to stick at 4K 120Hz for console gaming, and that works just as well here. Auto game mode kicks in as soon as it detects a console. It still supports FreeSync Premium Pro, ALLM, and variable refresh rate up to 144 Hz on HDMI. I measured 9.2 milliseconds of input lag at 4K 60 Hz, which is about as low as it gets for OLEDs. Gaming felt responsive and sharp with no noticeable lag or smearing. Samsung gave Tizen OS a significant overhaul last year, and this year's version feels mostly the same aside from a few small visual tweaks in the settings menu. One nice touch this time around is added customization. You now have the option to adjust menu size and transparency. All the big apps are here as well. such as Netflix, Prime, Disney+, even Apple TV+. And they all work great and support 4K HDR and even Dolby Atmos. SmartThings integration is here as well, and smart calibration via your phone works well enough if you're not doing a full manual calibration. It also works with Alexa and Bixby. Audio has improved over the years on these thinner OLEDs. The S95F uses a 4.2.2 channel setup with Object Tracking Sound Plus. It's not going to replace a soundbar, but it's noticeably wider and clearer than your average TV speaker. Dialogue in The Last of Us came through clean, and the positioning of audio is fairly accurate. You still won't get much deep bass, but it's fine for casual use. If you're pairing it with a Samsung soundbar, Q Symphony works here too, using both the TV speakers and the soundbar together. It's a nice upgrade if you're in Samsung's ecosystem. So at first glance, the S95F doesn't scream major upgrade. But once you dig into it, the improvements in brightness, anti-glare performance, and picture processing do make a pretty big difference. The S95F might not look all that different from last year's S95D. The design is very familiar, the OS hasn't changed that much, and the panel still carries that matte finish some people have mixed feelings about. But spend some time with it and the improvements really start to show. The jump in peak brightness gives HDR content more headroom than we've seen from Samsung's OLEDs before. Yes, Dolby Vision is still missing, and that's something I want to see and will also probably be a sticking point for some. But if you're watching HDR10 or HDR10 Plus content, the difference isn't as big as you think. It's still early in the year, but the S95F feels like one of those TVs that's going to end up on a lot of shortlists when people talk about the best TVs of 2025. For its improvements this year and performance, especially when it comes to brightness and overall image quality, the Samsung S95F earns an AVS Forum Top Choice for 2025. Thanks for watching. If you found this review helpful, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing for more home theater and TV reviews, and I'll see you in the next one.